Welcome to CBC Windsor News at 6. I'm Meg Roberts. Thanks so much for spending part of your evening with us tonight. The downtown mission is cutting back on the number of meals it serves in response to high grocery prices. Plus, council has approved a new event space and ice rink after heavy debate on the price tag. And community members are remembering Ted Farron today. The longtime owner of Farron's Gourmet Butcher has passed away at the age of 83. The city of Windsor is getting a new outdoor ice rink. It's part of a year-round event space to be built in front of City Hall. But that decision debated heavily because of the cost. CBC's Chris Ensing is just back from council. Okay, Chris, give us that price tag.
Yeah, Meg, this was a price tag that some councillors said residents were telling them is mind-blowing. The space is going to cost $15 million. That's a big jump from where the budget first started. This here is a rendering and some of the details of what you can expect at this space. There's going to be an ice rink, not a hockey rink, oval-shaped with something in the center. That's a water feature, which could be a fountain or a splash pad in the warmer months. There's also going to be a pavilion so people can host events and a small building to house bathrooms, equipment, and an ice resurfacer or a Zamboni. This is going to replace the ice rink that used to operate over at Charles Clark Square.
Chris, there are lots of people who have fond memories of that rink downtown. Why is it being replaced?
Yeah, it stopped working in 2022. Council looked at fixing it, but was told that that would cost $1 million. So they decided to replace the rink and look for ways to make it better. They budgeted $4 million for that. Then last year, council approved the Civic Esplanade project. This is going to be a major thing that reshapes the open area between City Hall and the Detroit River. Council approved new designs for the city rink in that plan and bumped the budget to $9.5 million. Staff sent that project off to construction groups to see if anyone would build it and how much this would cost. It came back over budget, and it shocked Ray Mansour. He's the city's Commissioner of Community Services.
When we first opened the tenders, we were shocked, but there were two close bids as well. That's the other thing that tells us, it was within line of what the going market is right now for these type of things. So. But we have had other projects. I know the pumping stations, for example, there was a budget of $2.6 million. It came in at $6.3 million, so more than double. The St. Paul pumping station was at $6.5. It came in at $26 million. So we're seeing this across the board.
Yeah, you rattled off a list of projects there, and it's really capturing what's on everyone's mind today at that council meeting. Inflationary costs is what split council tight down the middle. Mayor Drew Dilkins casting the deciding vote. An ice rink is going to come downtown. It won't be ready in time for the beginning of the winter season, but they hope it'll be there for part of it. There's an emphasis that it's going to be a year-round space in the summer. Some suggestions that people could rollerblade along the area. And it will all be paid for from budgets that are set aside from similar parks projects and an inflationary fund that council created.
We were also expecting a result on the Wyandotte Street road diet. What happened there?
Yeah, council's not going to narrow the street. This would have been between Walker Road and Lozon Road. Staff looked at removing a lane to add protected bike lanes and keep on-street parking. You're looking at an example of what we could have seen. Instead, staff are going to look at adding bike lanes on Riverside Drive in that same area of Old Riverside and Paulette Village. Council is going to look at reducing the speed limit on Wyandotte as well, but don't expect any change now. That has to go through a review process. They're also asking the province to increase penalties to people that are speeding in vehicles. The road diet not moving forward mainly because of traffic, according to the staff report. There's concerns that with future road closures along Riverside Drive for an upcoming sewer work project, that vehicles will move over to Wyandotte. And then with one less lane in each direction, a group representing businesses in Paulette Village is worried the traffic will spill out further to side streets. Cyclists say this would have been the east to west route on the north end of the city that they wanted, but it's not going to happen. No firm timeline on when the interim bike path along Riverside Drive will be ready. And finally, Meg, something to watch out for. More red light cameras are coming to Windsor. Where exactly they're going to go, we don't know that yet. City staff are going to work out that detail with police to find intersections with a high number of side impact collisions. They likely won't be in place until January because of the data that needs to be combed through and site visits that are expected to happen. There will be 10 more cameras, so it doubles the number that we've had since early 2022.
Thanks so much for that, Chris. That's the CBC's Chris Ensing. This afternoon, Councillor Fred Francis at Council paying tribute to a longtime community member. Ted Farron, who owned Farron's Gourmet Butcher in South Windsor for decades, passed away at the age of 83. Outside of running the business, he was known for his generosity in many different circles. Farron was involved in various fundraisers from hospice to the mission and policing. He was heavily involved in the boxing community and helped get the new medical school started here in Windsor. We spoke with some today who knew him the very best.
You know, he worked hard. He was a butcher for 60 years of full-time, and it would be double full-time for what most people do. They worked just as tirelessly in the community. Towards the end of his journey, he said, don't feel bad about me. I did everything I wanted to do. And he was in hospice for 3 months, and I'll tell you, the humanity in that organization is just, it's awe-striking. He simplified life, so he never felt that he was out of place in a room. He brought enthusiasm and optimism and really effort, and he didn't see things as constraints. He saw obstacles as things that, you know, we could get around if it was important enough. Kindness was at the heart of what he did. He was able to be successful while remaining kind, and no one had to lose in order for Ted Farron to win.
It was a stop of our family in his gourmet butcher shop. If you lived in South Windsor, there was only one place you went. Got to know him through various organizations and charity work that he did in the community. Just a giver, a true champion. Ted just loved Windsor, Essex, and wanted to help everybody. Whether it was giving jobs to people that worked with him at the butcher shop, to most importantly for some charities I've worked with, but most importantly our hospice. He would do every year for our hospice face-to-face, he would do a hot dog barbecue. And it wasn't he assigned it to someone. Ted would be there wearing his hospice t-shirt, raising money for our hospice every year.
Windsor's downtown mission is cutting back on the number of meals it serves every day. It comes in response to the high cost of food, and as Dale Molnar reports, their dollar just not going far enough.
We didn't lock the door. For the past 8 years, the downtown mission has been serving breakfast, lunch, and dinner for anyone in the community, whether they have a home or not. But now, because of the high cost of food and the need to cut down the numbers at mealtimes, the mission will only be offering people with homes lunch. All people who are experiencing homelessness and staying at the shelter will still be able to get 3 meals a day.
Our annual report, when we presented it at our AGM in April, and it's online as well, you will see that we spent, I think it was $495,000 on food last year, and our budget for the year last year was $375,000.
Panaya Gulen says they can't cut back other programs such as the shelter and their addiction program because those are government funded. She says having fewer people in the dining room at peak hours will also make people experiencing homelessness feel safer.
It's not just purely the cost, it's also the space and the attention of our staff who are, it's very limited, and there's more people who come here with higher needs, who need more people like our staff's time and attention.
Ron Dahl has a place to live. He's been coming to the mission for lunch since 1998. He says it helps him make ends meet.
I'd be eating bologna, you know, bologna and bread and maybe some cheese in there.
Meanwhile, here at Street Help, one of the managers tells CBC News they have no plans to cut back on services. The volunteer coordinator says they are proud of the sign that now reads Community Services, so anyone, homeless or not, can come here for 3 meals a day.
Yes, they can, because the cost of groceries and everything is really high. So if they can't afford it, and we have we have definitely food every day.
Nelson says they're making up for the higher cost of food by seeking more donations. Panaya Gulen says they may be able to bring back the 3 meals for anyone policy once they move into a larger location near the new homelessness hub with more staff. She says they are still planning to fundraise for that goal. She says some outside organizations still hold food distribution events at the mission so people can be fed then. The new policy takes effect July 1st. Dale Molnar, CBC News, Windsor.
The union representing Canada Border Services Agency workers has pushed its strike deadline back again. If an agreement isn't reached with federal government by this Friday, workers would be able to start job action. CBSA officers are not allowed to walk off the job since they're considered essential workers, but the union has previously said they would take job action that would slow traffic at the border. Previously, a strike deadline was set for last Friday before being pushed back to this Wednesday. Now it's being postponed again until this upcoming Friday. Experts have previously said any job action at the border would cause chaos for both travelers and commercial traffic at crossings between Canada and the U.S. In a lab on the University of Windsor campus, researchers are working on what they think could be a game-changing device to detect and treat cancer simultaneously. A small piece of plastic that would be implanted into the brain of a brain cancer survivor. It's still in the early stages, but cancer experts, electrical engineers, and doctors are eager to make it work. CBC Windsor headed to the lab to learn more.
What you see here is a chip that has about 20 little subunits, and every single unit that you see on here would be one of the sensors that I'm talking about. So the sensor will be implanted in the brain, and as soon as there will be a molecule associated to brain cancer, it will trigger the sensor will turn on, and then it will trigger the degradation of the plastic. In the plastic, we will put drugs. So the plastic will degrade, release the drugs, and hopefully treat the cancer as soon as we have that first molecule recognized by our detector. Early brain cancer is really infiltrative. So naturally, removing it is very challenging. There's always residual brain cancer cells remaining. And this is really difficult for someone to access that cancer because, of course, of the nature of the cancer in the brain itself. So having that technology, being able to do kind of all the work by itself without having to have a pair of hands playing around in the brain is massive. I just hope that it's going to give someone the peace of mind that as soon as there is a molecular signature of the cancer coming back, that we have a tool to really eradicate it right away. But this is hopefully how like a full chip made of all of these little sensors would look like to be implanted in one's brain, basically. This is really the first generation of what we envision as the actual working device. It's really sometimes difficult to get the technology adopted by surgeons, by patients. So someone will want to have these technologies in their brain. So there's a big part of the grant that will go survey surgeons, survey patients and clinicians and cancer experts and patients, and try to understand what could be the barriers for them to not adopt the technology. So we're at the stage where we combine our expertise. We have all the pieces already there. We just need to combine and work together to make it happen.
For the first time, the two sides of the Gordie Howe International Bridge are touching, which means it's linked, but not yet fully connected. Temporary bracing pieces have been installed. Officials say that's to hold the deck align. Last week, the final two cables were installed. Those hold the weight of the entire crossing. The $6.4 billion Gordie Howe International Bridge is still on track to open late next year. Colin, I'm thinking if you were a crew member working on that bridge today, the weather may have been perfect because it wasn't too warm. And I'm sure they have seen some real miserable days up there.
Yeah, I'm sure it is, a little bit below seasonal, but maybe that is more comfortable. The winds would just be the one thing that I think sometimes could be a little bit tricky, and they've been breezy at times through the day today. Because we've been lacking some heat, I thought I would take us on a journey somewhere where it is anything but cool. They are not lacking heat at all throughout the desert Southwest, and in fact, a heat dome that is set up here, when you look at some of the readings from this afternoon, not even necessarily at their daytime high. When you get to 40 degrees, you're talking about it being in Fahrenheit about 104, 38 puts you at 100. So they talk in terms of triple digits, and they've been in triple digits for daytime highs. For Phoenix, it's 14 days in a row. Vegas, 11 consecutive days there as well. And as far as that heat dome goes, it really doesn't appear to be sort of letting up. So we're not seeing that really breaking down in that region. And in fact, when you have a heat dome, it's kind of stuck, all right? That's a weather pattern that isn't moving. So we see it shift a little bit over the next few days. It's stuck there. But what I want you to see is that as we're approaching Thursday, some of the warmth from that area is beginning to spread, and we're getting into some of those temperatures really starting to pick up, and the humidity as well. Not there right now, 19 degrees in Sarnia at 13, 12 for Goderich. There's that breeze coming out of the north, which at times was a little bit gustier earlier, but it calms down through the overnight. We are going to be getting into a nice situation where we're seeing some of that cloud cover receding. We'll get into clearer skies with this nice ridge of high pressure, and it sets us up pretty well as we head into Tuesday. There is, a lot of activity to the west where you get that warm air and that cold air knocking up against each other, but we're not going to worry about that for now. Dry conditions as we go into Wednesday. Thursday is when we'll start to see a changeover as that cold front begins to approach, and we could have some isolated showers or thunderstorms beginning to bubble up. So through tonight, there are your clearer skies. Yes, some cloud cover if you'll be traveling eastward, but that's where you'll have to go if you're looking to find it. I'm sure you won't be. And as we carry on with that sun, as we go into later Tuesday and Wednesday, that's when we'll see just a little bit of fair weather cloud coming on through, but that's still well ahead of that cold front. But as the humidity builds into Thursday, that provides some of that buoyancy where you can see some of these storms kind of bubbling in the atmosphere. Can I just show you these? Our overnight lows. Essentially, this time of year, a normal low would be about 14. We're going to slip to 6, 7 degrees, so kind of half of really where we should be for this time of year because of those clearer conditions and that core of colder air that's moving in. Tomorrow, readings are looking pretty comfortable. We are headed into those low 20s, and then there you go as we push towards Wednesday. And Thursday, it's not just the numbers, it's actually where that humidity is going to be as well.
We might have some colder conditions at night, but those temperatures are certainly making up for it in the day afterwards.
It's going to be flipping around, that is for sure.
Thanks so much for that, Colette.
You're welcome.
We've got some beautiful shots of dozens of Corvettes that were down at the riverfront this weekend for a special occasion. That story coming up after the break. More than 200 Corvettes popped hoods on the edge of the Detroit River this weekend. The Corvette Club of Windsor celebrated its 50th anniversary. Vehicles from the region as well as northern parts of the United States were in attendance, with donations from the event going to Windsor Regional's Pediatric Oncology Satellite Unit.
What's it like to drive down, a street in a Corvette like this on a summer day in a city like this?
Pretty cool.
Yeah?
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's enjoyable. You always get the looks. They're a big crowd pleaser. You can just tell by how many people come down and enjoy the show. And every year it's getting bigger and bigger. They've got a great club. They got over almost 115 members. And originally when we started, there was, like I said, less than 10. And half a dozen of those people are still here today. But I always kept buying Corvettes. I love them and pass them down to my grandchildren and my children.
Can you take me back to the first time you got in one?
I kept seeing this yellow 73 at the corner. It was a doctor owned it. And then one day I noticed the for sale sign go up on it. So that, hell, so I went and knocked on the door, ended up buying the car, sold the Roadrunner, and that was my first entry to the Corvettes. My son in 78, I got the new 78 10 days before he was born. Brought him home from the hospital and then said to him that day, if you're a good kid, I'll leave this for you. So he has it today, actually.
Today, still
yeah,
has it.
I gave it to him when he was 22 or 3, signed it over to him. He's had it ever since.
Detroit's J.W. Westcott Company is celebrating serving the Detroit River for 150 years. We have that story coming up after the break. Detroit's J.W. Westcott Company is celebrating serving the Detroit River for 150 years. The company has ferried supplies and mail to ships since 1874, with those initial deliveries passed to ships off of a rowboat. Today, the company is run by the same family. According to the U.S. Postal Service, it's the world's first non-military floating zip code. CBC Windsor was there as they marked the special occasion.
Well, most family businesses don't survive the second generation, so it's got a lot of strength in its longevity there and commitment to service, and I feel that we're just a blessed company. It was started by Captain John Ward Westcott in 1874. He died in 1913, and the company's in its 5th generation of management right now. Well, we deliver mail to any vessel that goes up or down the Detroit River. That can be everything from a small yacht to a 1,000-foot ship. We also serve as the pilot boat in Detroit. Foreign ships that are on the Great Lakes have to have a pilot, so this is one of the change points for them. We also supply the ships of the Great Lakes and or anybody going by with supplies. Anything from a small grocery order to a large grocery order to ship spares or people going on and going off that we may put repair people on. Sometimes crews change out here if they're going on vacation. Pretty much anything, we're here to serve. This vessel that we're standing on is 75 years old this October. We've kept it in continuous service since we purchased it in October of 1949. It was built just to do this job. And we maintain it as a historical vehicle, and we keep her in service every single day, and she'll be ready for a museum at some point, but right now we're very proud of her. We keep her up, and I think folks along both shorelines enjoy seeing her out and about every day.
They deliver not only to U.S. and Canadian, but also to foreign vessels. So I got to say, it is one of those things that's international. When a boat comes up the river, it simply has to be serviced.
Congratulations on the 150th anniversary of the J.W. Westcott Company and our 76 years as an official U.S. Postal Service mailboat delivering mail to passing ships on the Detroit River with its own unique zip code 48222.
Fans of Paddington Bear are being invited to a new immersive adventure in London. Visitors will be able to step into the world of Britain's beloved fictional character.
So you start in Paddington Station, you go into the train, board the train, and that whisks you off into Windsor Gardens, where you disembark the train and you meet some of the most iconic characters from the film.
The Paddington Bear experience is a cross between a film set, a theater show, and a party, complete with actual set locations and prop pieces from the 2 blockbuster movies. There are themed rooms, interactions, and of course, marmalade sandwiches. The iconic character was created by late author Michael Bond in 1958, delighting generations of children with his adventures around London ever since. Well, that's it for CBC Windsor News. Don't forget, for news anytime, you can go to our website at cbc.ca/Windsor. You can also download the CBC News app for stories that matter most to you. And don't forget to watch The National tonight at 9 on CBC News Network, 10 p.m. on the CBC News app, CBC TV, and streaming. Thanks so much for tuning in. Looking forward to seeing you back here tomorrow night.